In life, there are grudges that, when we look back, we realize not only last over time but also gnaw at relationships, leaving wounds that seem impossible to heal. But one thing we cannot deny is the power of forgiveness. This is the profound message in the story of Tracy and Carrie in Emmerdale. Two women, once friends, now enemies because of misunderstandings and the pain they could not share. Their grudge lasted for many years, like a shadow cast over their lives. Yet, in a moment of courage and compassion, Tracy was able to let go of all the hatred, opening a new path for their lost friendship. This is a story about forgiveness, not only to free oneself but also to rebuild relationships that were once broken. It is a journey of repressed emotions, inner conflict, and Tracy's ultimate decision, a decision that could change everything. This story is not only a lesson about friendship but also a reminder of the power of forgiveness in all relationships. Tracy could never forget the scene of the devastating fire, the image of her father trying to save her from the raging flames, only to collapse under the heat of despair. Tracy's heart could never forgive Kerry, whom she believed was the one responsible for her father's death. Even though time passed, the wound remained, like a heavy stone pressing on her soul. Those moments of despair were something Tracy could never forget, and from that, a deep hatred for Kerry had grown. But then, something unexpected happened. Once again, the relationship between Tracy and Kerry was not just about simple hatred. One evening, when Tracy was sitting alone at her family's cafe, memories suddenly flooded back. She remembered a time when she and Kerry were friends, sharing simple joys and quiet sorrows. Suddenly, a thought flashed in Tracy's mind: could she really continue living in hatred forever? Could she overcome the pain and find peace in her heart? The internal struggle within Tracy became more intense than ever. She could feel the lingering feelings in Kerry, who had stopped trying to justify her past mistakes. One day, unexpectedly, Tracy decided to meet Kerry. Not to confront her with angry words, but to listen to her side of the story. As Tracy entered Kerry's home, she could sense the tense atmosphere in the room. Kerry stood there, her eyes filled with worry, as if she were awaiting a storm. But contrary to what Kerry feared, Tracy simply looked at her, her eyes full of sadness but determination. "I'm not here to destroy everything anymore, Kerry," Tracy began, her voice gentle but firm. "I'm here to hear your explanation." Kerry stood still, her eyes brimming with tears. "I never wanted this to happen, Tracy. I can't live with this mistake. I've lost not only Frank, but also myself. His death is a price I've had to pay." Kerry's words made Tracy's heart tighten. She realized that, after all, Kerry wasn't evil, she was simply a woman who had made a mistake and had to face the consequences. A moment of silence enveloped them, and both women stood there, looking at each other with empathy. Finally, Tracy sighed, her heart breaking. "I don't know if I can forgive right now, but I will try. I don't want to live forever in the shadow of the past," she said, her voice choked, but in it was a sense of release Tracy had never imagined. Unexpectedly, Kerry stepped forward and embraced Tracy tightly. "Thank you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I've regretted it so much, but I didn't know how to fix it. Now, I know I can start over." The grudge that had lasted 6 years was now over. But the story between Tracy and Kerry didn't end there. They still had to face the painful past, but together, they had found a way forward, hoping that one day, they could fully forgive each other and heal the wounds that had been there for so long. The feeling of tension never left Tracy. Even though Kerry's words had touched her heart, it wasn't easy for the deep wounds in her heart to heal. Every time she remembered Frank's death, every time she thought of the loss her father had to endure, a wave of resentment would rise within Tracy. But one thing Tracy could not deny was that facing the truth about Kerry had made her realize her own cruelty. One rainy evening, when Tracy was sitting alone at her family's cafe, her mood turned darker than ever. Suddenly, a call from Billy startled her. "Tracy, something's wrong," Billy said, his voice full of worry. "Someone is looking for your daughter. They say she's been kidnapped." Tracy's heart stopped. She rushed out of the cafe and ran home, her mind racing with worry about what might happen next. When Tracy arrived home, she saw the chaotic scene. Her daughter, whom Tracy had cared for all these years, was gone. She immediately called the police, but inside, fear surged like never before. Everything seemed to collapse before her eyes. In that moment, Tracy realized that whether she forgave Kerry or not, the most important thing was to protect the ones she loved. As the police began their investigation, Tracy realized that behind this kidnapping, there might be a more complicated relationship than she had imagined. An important tip from an unofficial source revealed that Kerry, in a recent meeting, had mentioned wanting to help Tracy. "I know what she's facing, and I can help," Kerry had said. But could this be a trap, or was it really an offer of help? Tracy couldn't be sure. But one thing was clear: in her most desperate moment, she would have to face difficult decisions. While searching for her daughter, Tracy unexpectedly discovered an important detail: a video from a security camera at Frank's old factory. Watching the footage, Tracy saw the image of a strange man, believed to be the one behind the kidnapping. But even more surprising was that, in the darkness, she saw Kerry at the scene. Tracy stood frozen, unable to believe her eyes. How was Kerry involved in this incident? When she confronted Kerry in a tense meeting, Tracy could no longer control her emotions. "Why, Kerry? Why would you do this?" Tracy shouted, her eyes wide with rage, her voice choked. "Didn't we forgive each other? Why are you still causing me this pain?" Kerry, with a face full of remorse, replied, "Tracy, I'm not the one behind the kidnapping. But I know someone is taking advantage of the situation to cause chaos in your life. I can't stand by and watch you suffer anymore." Tracy didn't know who to believe. But one thing was certain, she needed to act immediately. In that crucial moment, Tracy had to choose between continuing to trust the people who had hurt her or standing up to fight for what was left in her life. And in that moment, Tracy understood that the forgiveness she had given Kerry wasn't just about healing old wounds, it was a journey to reclaim her own freedom, to move beyond the past, and to move forward into a future no longer clouded by darkness. Kerry couldn't hold back her tears when she heard Tracy speak. The two women, once enemies, shared an emotional hug, tears falling, but they were also tears of release. Officially reconciled and closing the painful past, they began a new chapter, where forgiveness and compassion would light the way forward.